How many, quick question, how many, this is the first time coming to a DFW DataViz event? Fantastic, welcome. I try to run monthly events on anything in the world of DataViz. So anything from PowerPoint design to a lot of the analytics tools like Tableau and Power BI, all the way up to programming in R and D3 and processing and stuff. So everything that has anything to do with visualizing data. This is our link. If you join, if you haven't joined already, you'll get an email every time we schedule a new speaker, so you can see what's going on. Feel free to tweet, take photos. Some people like to use the hashtag DFWDataViz, so that way you can see each other's tweets and any other photos, that kind of thing. If you don't know me, my name is Randy Crum. So I organized a group. Here in Dallas, I run my own company called InfoNewt. We do data visualization design for clients all over the world. About half of it's stuff you see online, and about half of it's all proprietary with confidential data that we do for internal communication. I run a website called Cool Infographics. We just celebrated the 10th anniversary of Cool Infographics. Conveniently, my book is also called Cool Infographics. That worked out very nicely. And I also teach a class here at SMU. So I teach a class in the spring and in the fall about data visualization, dashboard, and infographics design. It's through their continuing and professional ed, so it's only a 6-week course. In the evenings, we do 3 hours a night for 6 weeks. And we play around with tools. We do a lot in Office. We do a lot in Tableau Public and Power BI and that sort of stuff. We just get a chance to get your hands on and do some data visualization. If you're interested, I'd like to throw this up. The first chapter of the Cool Infographics book is on the Cool Infographics site. You can download it as a PDF just to check it out. I'm experimenting with video training. So I put a class up on Skillshare if anybody wants to check it out. If you already are a member of Skillshare, you have access to it because that's the way they work. You subscribe and you get access to everything. So if you want to check it out, this is a really, I need to change this. I need to make a better link because there's no way you're going to remember that. But I'll put this up in a link in the comments for the meetup. Thank you to Sweetspot, who's our speaker today, but they also provided Kenny's Smokehouse some fantastic barbecue. So thank you very much, Sweetspot. SMU gives us space. That's how we keep the group free. They give us space to hold these events for free. This location is actually in flux. They're selling off this campus up in Plano, so we're not sure if we're going to have use of it or not by the end of this year and into next year, but we're going to use it as long as we can because it's, at least for me, it's pretty convenient to get up here and easy to park, and you don't have to worry about all the main campus stuff. But we may end up doing more stuff on the main campus. And then my company. If you or your company, you think you would like to be a sponsor, bring food to an event, bring a speaker to an event, something like that, let me know. I do have some sheets you can take back, just basic sponsorship stuff if you want to share it with somebody internal to your company. Earlier this year, I started the DFW data community on Slack. I don't know if any of you joined that yet, but it's free for everybody to join on Slack at bit.ly/DFW data Slack. It's free for everybody. It's a community where you have different channels to discuss anything in the world of data, right? So there's jobs, there's events, there's education, but there's also a discussion of Microsoft tools and other tools in design and programming and that sort of stuff. So anything related to the data community, feel free to join, feel free to share it with anybody else you know that's in the data community. It's open for everybody to use. I do like to pause if anybody wants to share an open position or you're actively looking for a role and want to stand up and share with the group. Okay, and that's all I've got. So we're going to introduce Holly Mchenry. And Holly, I've seen Director of Marketing. I've seen CMO of Sweetspot. Holly's here from the Netherlands, visiting, because she's got family here, but while she's in town, she agreed to do a talk. So let's change the hookup and get you set up.
Okay, there we go. All right, so hello everyone. It's really nice to meet you all. It's really great for me to be back here in Dallas. Maybe you can tell I don't have a Dutch accent. I'm not from the Netherlands. I'm actually here from Dallas, so it's really, really nice to be back. And it's really special because this is the first time that Sweetspot is sponsoring an event here in my hometown, so it's wonderful. So yeah, as I said, I am the Chief Marketing Officer at Sweetspot. We have offices headquartered in New York City, in the north of Spain, in a town called Gijón, and our newest office is in Amsterdam, where I'm living.
How big is Sweetspot?
Quite big. So across the whole team, I'd say In Europe, there's about 30. In New York, I'm not too sure. New York is mostly kind of a commercial office. They're in the financial district, and they do run events about once a quarter. So if anyone's in New York, look up Disruptive Digital Marketing, the Meetup, and we host events there. So it's a lot of fun. To tell you more about my day-to-day, Sweetspot consists of a few different products, so I'm in charge of the entire Sweetspot Data Solutions brand. So that includes our 4 reporting products that you'll find in Sweetspot, as well as SmartFeed, which is our newest product. It's custom data feeds. So we'll go ahead and jump into it. We're going to be talking today about making reports actionable, but it does kind of make sense to at least tell you a little bit about Sweetspot, because I'll be using it quite a bit as an example to show you what we do. So our mission is to bring together data, people, and ideas. I know the name Sweetspot doesn't exactly scream marketing dashboard the first time you hear it. So to give you a bit of a background, the founder of Sweetspot, he was running a 130-person digital analytics consultancy, and it's now a Merkle company. But at the time, they were spending a lot of time creating these very large reports, and they found that no matter how much time or effort they put into it, the people receiving those reports really weren't able to make enough sense out of them to be able to use them. So what they did is he decided to create this tool, which not only automates reporting, but it also helps bring together people through different features around collaboration and distribution. So it's a little bit more about Sweetspot, and this is just a quote from our founder describing kind of his experience. So what I want to do today is pretty much talk to you guys about my experience. Being in the marketing role and having a marketing dashboard has been amazing because I get to use it all the time to evaluate my own team's performance. But at the same time, I've gotten to work with clients such as Bosch, Tyson, the Boston Globe, the Green Bay Packers. I know it's not the Cowboys, but they are very good at reporting. So I want to use some of those experiences and some of the best practices that we work on with our clients in order to help you guys with whatever type of reporting you're doing. So our tool is currently in use by over 5,000 marketers and analysts, and we have 22 certified partners. So always looking to expand partnerships, so it would be great to have one in Dallas if anyone wants to talk about that. And just a little bit more on where we fall in the market. Gartner recognizes us as a pure play marketing dashboard, so that basically means we focus on making sense of information and delivering it in a clear and concise way. So one thing that came up when I was talking to Randy about this event, the very first thing I told him was, okay, well, Sweetspot's a data delivery tool. It's not a data visualization tool. And I think it's very important to kind of draw that line in the sand. So I'll explain that a little bit better. So we've got here, I don't know if anyone's familiar with this. This is the marketing data technology landscape. It's a mouthful. So if you look here in the upper right-hand corner, we have the Discover side. This is basically a lot of the tools that make up your marketing stack are going to be found in here. So in the Discover side, you have visual discovery. That's going to be like Tableau, Click. You also have BI tools like Power BI, for example. And then if we look here on the left, we have marketing performance, insight management, information delivery. The tools that are found on the right are greatly for analysts. They're amazing at slicing and dicing data and exploration. And the tools on the left are usually focused more towards stakeholders or decision makers who may not have the same analytical background. So to give you a little bit more of an idea, data visualizations, here's some of the benefits that you would find with a data visualization tool. They're great at finding patterns and structured data. They can give you multiple perspectives on the same data. You can quickly apply filters, and pretty much all of them give you access to these amazing interactive analysis tools where you can really dive deeper into your data. Then we have the data delivery side. This is greatly focused on performance. So this is where you're going to be communicating trends, goals, benchmarks, forecasts. One of the best practices that are usually concise and personalized. And they're going to include data governance tools and actionability tools that help people collaborate around their data and get it to the right people. So if we repopulate the marketing data technology landscape, you can see some of the more popular tools or some of the more well-known tools. So here on the Decide section, you can find Sweetspot. Some comparative tools are going to be Beacon, Origami, Datorama. Clipfolio is also comparative. It's a plug-and-play dashboard. And then on the right, you'll see Click and Tableau, Power BI. So some of those well-known brands. So now that we've kind of differentiated between the two. Let's get into talking about actionability. I'm going to go through some of our best practices, and you'll see some examples on the screen. But before you even create your dashboard, you really need to ask yourself why you're creating it. This is often, it comes up a lot whenever we're talking to people, especially in pilot phases, where a lot of times they might just want to repeat a dashboard they already have, but you don't really want to do it just because your boss told you to, just because they need it. You kind of want to figure out what it's for. So is it to understand organizational performance, hopefully to make progress towards strategic goals? What is your company working on as a whole, and how is your team contributing to that? And to indicate which areas of business maybe need further attention. Either they're doing amazing, you want to figure out how to optimize the campaigns that you're already working on, or they're not doing so great and you want to figure out why. So an actual dashboard should essentially answer 3 questions right off the bat, and you want these to be very clear to the business stakeholder. You need to be able to tell them what's happening, why it's happening, and how can we either fix or improve upon this. So I'll go ahead and get into the best practices. What we want to get into first is creating custom reports. I've seen before, it was really horrific actually, a 200-page report. I don't know if anyone's received a 200-page report, but it's really not that easy to figure out what's important to you in that report. So when we're creating reports for different organizations, we want to really identify that each person plays a key role on the team and how they, how to say this, how they influence like the goals and the progress they're making towards them is going to be a little bit different. So we want to give them information that specifically pertains to their role and that's relevant to them. I don't know if you guys have heard, we have attention spans like goldfish at this point or worse, and time is very valuable. So you really want to just give people the information that they can see it, it's clear, they know what's happening, and they know why it's relevant to them. If I give the entire marketing team one dashboard, it might be a little bit confusing because they're going to be scrolling through to figure out what actually is aligned with their own goals. So, some questions you can ask when you're deciding who you're creating the dashboard for, or like why you're creating a dashboard for this person. What data assets actually belong to this person? So which of the sources are you going to be pulling this information from? What are the responsibilities and objectives? If it's a CMO and an email marketer, the CMO is going to want to see how their team's doing as a whole, and you can almost give them a score sheet where you basically have a few KPIs that highlights each of them. Whereas an email marketer is going to need a very, well, not long, but at least a very granular dashboard that goes into the campaigns at a certain level and shows them exactly how they're performing so that they can meet their goals. We're also going to want to know what type of data consumption preferences do they have. Is this person a visual learner? Are they happy with graphs? Are they happier with tables? What's easiest for them to comprehend? And how much time are they going to have available to actually pay attention to this dashboard? Should you be delivering it to them every Monday before their main meeting, or should this be a daily dashboard because they're looking at campaigns, they're trying to optimize them? And finally, how do they want this dashboard delivered? Is it going to be a PDF that you send to their email? Is it a PowerPoint they just want to put on the screen during their meetings? Mobile devices, do they want to get into an app, or do they want to get into a web application? So knowing all of this is important. Now let's talk about dashboard content. We've already talked about how we really need to personalize this for each person, but with that we only want to include this crucial information for those people. I'm very guilty of not doing this. I have 2 dashboards, and one dashboard is very straight to the point, concise, and it's probably the one that I use most of the time. I also have a dashboard that looks like a scrapbook of every campaign my team has ever done, and it's a little too much, so it's fun to look back and see, but what we really need to see is getting straight to the point, getting to the crucial insights. So, dashboard design. Once you've chosen the content that is relevant to those people, how you put it together and how you deliver it to them is very important. So you really want to make sure that you have some sort of contextual and logical order that they can follow. This is going to make it easiest for them to gain maximum impact on their decision making. So let's go into this. We basically suggest having 3 layers within your dashboard. Specifically when you're dealing with business stakeholders who may or may not have a lot of analytics experience, you want to add some sort of contextual summary at the top. It can either be a recommendation, some of the main insights you've seen. It can even be a little bit of a takeaway on how to interpret the dashboard and what they should be focused on. So follow that up with the strategic KPIs. Our main suggestion, we usually tell people no more than 5 KPIs at the top of the screen. Make it full width all the way across. If you have additional KPIs, you can either separate those out into additional tabs, or even do just some micro KPIs towards the bottom and include them with your graphs. And follow up those KPIs with some supporting tables and charts. When I was talking about the very first question of the dashboard is we need to know what is happening, the KPIs are usually what, and then the charts are why. This is where you can give a better look at how it's happening, or why it's happening. Okay, so to look at this a little bit quick of an example, the first thing I said is to add contextual relevance. So we have the recommendations here is the very first thing you see in this dashboard. We follow that with a little bit of an explanation from the analysts about what they think is happening and why. And then the second thing we talk about is having the KPIs. In this dashboard itself, you have 3 KPIs that all deal with acquisition, and we immediately follow those KPIs with a chart that's going to break down the leads. So, to keep from adding everything to a very long dashboard, you should try to organize the content into relevant groupings. So that could be additional dashboards, choosing by team, choosing by brand, or you can also do different tabs. I've seen like owned, earned, paid, social channels, whatever it may be, whatever logical order that person will require. Try to do that. It just makes it easier so that when you are sharing a dashboard or even just a normal dashboard, that you can very easily navigate to the information that you'd like to see. Okay, and this should be very clear, but choosing the right graph when you're dealing with stakeholders, make sure you choose the most simple, not most simple, but the graph that's the clearest. If you have the choice between a pie chart, a column chart, unless you're going to have very clear 50%, 25%, things that are recognizable, try to choose the graph that's going to tell the story like the clearest way. You can tell this is the same, it might be hard to see the same values when you're looking at the pie as compared to the same chart as a bar graph. So, and if you are going to use charts like spiders or areas or do combo charts, it's always great, but make sure you include some sort of information there on how to interpret the graph. So, then if we want to focus on performance, this is where we start to get a little bit more actionable. You've already created your dashboard with that person in mind. So you want to add different features to your dashboard to make it a little bit easier to keep them, make sure they are adopting the dashboard and they're really using it for their decision making. One way to do that is by adding predictive KPIs, smart alerts, and advanced goal management. So when we talk about alerts, this is basically an insurance on your dashboard. You're making sure that whether this person is opening their email or they are checking the dashboard online, that they have some sort of limitation set so that if there's a big fluctuation in data, whether it rises above or below a certain number, then they're going to get an alert and they're going to have to check and see why it's happening. Then we should always accompany our KPIs with visual indicators. This is just a very quick reference of why a KPI is either going, or not why, but if it is going in a positive, neutral, or negative direction compared to past performance. In this one, you can see the arrows. So we have the green arrow is obviously positive. I've seen it done a few different ways. You can do weather icons, clouds, rain. I did see a really nice one the other day from a client. They are a flip-flop company, and so they had like green flip-flops, yellow flip-flops, and red. So that was really nice. But and then you always want to make sure your goal is at least alongside or viewable in the dashboard somewhere. So here we have a goal within the column of the KPIs. We can already see which ones have been successful, which ones have not been met. And you can also sometimes see the progress towards those goals. The reason you want to add a goal is because you want to be very transparent about what you're working towards. If you're getting the numbers but you don't actually know what the goal is, then it's not very useful. So yeah, suggest that. And you also want to add a layer of team collaboration. So be it within a platform like this where you can mention other users, ask them what's happening. This is a way of getting analysts and marketers to talk on the same playing field. You can also export different graphs or KPIs to channels, like say for example your team is using Slack. It's a good way, even if you have to screenshot, just get it into the channels and make sure you're able to have conversations between teammates around them. And then this is, I'm not sure if this is a feature you'll see in a lot of platforms, but this is a really neat feature. When you're wanting people to make decisions on their data, it's often hard to say like, okay, last month we made this decision. By the time you see your next dashboard, you've already forgotten about it. You made the decision, you moved on. A lot of different campaigns have changed maybe. This is where you can actually save different decisions made within KPIs. So say for example, you started a brand new campaign, then you're gonna drop it on your timeline and just save the date. You say new campaign here, and what the dashboard will do is it's going to start measuring the variations since that decision was made. So you started a new hire, you have someone new on the team, you added money to the budget, you took it away. This is just a good place to save it and see how that decision impacted your performance. So. The final section we're going to talk about today is adding storytelling elements to your dashboard. This is where we talked about the contextual elements that you should have at the top of the screen anytime you're delivering a report. So in storytelling and these elements, you have three basic parts. The headline is where you want to provide some sort of captivating title that gets straight to the point, tells them what they're going to be looking at. You do want to associate a time frame. As I said, dashboards, if you're not looking at them on a regular basis, or you see one and it just has static text, you're not really sure what date that was associated to. So you want to make sure you're associating to dates at all times. Whenever possible, a start and end date is preferred. And then annotations, this is where you're going to be adding your background information that will help explain why things are happening or what conclusions you've drawn. So when we talk about captivating headlines, try to avoid using names such as overview, summary, and try to use more captivating names that are going to tell them maybe about like how they're going towards their objectives or some really useful insights that'll stand out to them. Some examples of this, if you could have 2016 annual sales, or would you prefer to see 2016 annual sales increased by a certain number? Or overview versus we hit a goal. So Q1 social conversions hit a record high. And decreased web traffic, that sounds pretty bad, but say for example it's after the holidays, it could be web traffic went down due to seasonal patterns, so at least we know this is something that occurs. When we are creating the stories, as I said, try to associate to time frames, but also update regularly so that the narrative is changing over time and so that your business stakeholders can follow it and really understand it. This will also help them to engage on a continual basis, and they'll be anticipating the next changes. And then for annotations, there's a few different types. You can add data paragraphs. A data paragraph is basically an explanation of either how you calculated something, where that information came from. So here we have conversion rates. This is how they're calculating it. And then you have user glossaries. This is, I think, really great for if you have a dashboard solution, especially for example, P&G, they have dashboards for every single one of their brands. What you could do in that case is have some sort of glossary in there where they really understand how to navigate through the dashboards. So this is just an example that I pulled from our demo account where we explain how to navigate through Sweetspot itself. You could also do the same thing with different KPIs, with how to interact with other colleagues. And finally, you have callouts. So callouts is what I showed you before. It's just this basic explanation where you can be anticipating questions, you can mention other users, and you can highlight key changes that have happened over time. So that kind of wraps up my best practices. We do have free ebooks on our website, so if you do want to download any of our best practice guides and see some more of this, these are two that I think are particularly interesting. We have Dashboard Harmony, is how to use data storytelling to deliver actionable reports. This one goes much deeper into storytelling and how you can apply it to reports. And then we have the Red Book of Dashboard Design, which is going to talk to you a little bit more about how to lay out your dashboards. So if you go to Sweetspot's website, just check the downloads area, and you'll find a few more, like the cheat sheet. You'll find even a GDPR guide. So that's our newest one. But yeah, thank you guys If you want to see the dashboards, I'm happy to show you on the screen. But if you guys have any questions about anything I've talked about today, happy to answer. So, yeah. Any questions? Yes.
What do you see as practices between designing dashboards for desktop versus designing dashboards for mobile?
For our best practices for that? Well, actually, that's a great question. I will tell you guys, if you have Android or iOS, download Sweetspot's app over the next 30 days. And I'm only telling you this because for the very first time, we never open our apps to the public, but we've opened our mobile app to the public, and you can access the World Cup dashboard. So it's fun to play around with. So for dashboard design, we do pretty much follow the same formatting. Like when you saw the dashboard in the KPIs, it takes on obviously a much smaller thing, and everything is almost the same size. So it's very hard to differentiate in that sense, like which one's a micro KPI. You're going to see it all as one panel. It would just be keeping the order of what's most important. So we would still start with the context, followed by those KPIs, and then whatever graph you may have. So.
I have a quick question. Do you have any best practices on marketing campaigns versus revenue generated by those campaigns?
So in what sense would you say that?
So since we're in the sports trading card industry, and since you have a sports background, let's say the New York Giants, I'm running a social campaign based around a set that we designed for them, and I want to be able to have that dashboard display basically for that time frame, those social channels, and how much was generated.
Okay, so you would want that in like a real-time format, or okay?
A real-time format, or a format where you can customize the date.
Okay, yeah.
If we ran it through the NFL season.
Yeah, definitely. It's like in that case, you could definitely, let me switch, see if I can pull up a dashboard. So in that case, you want to have something like this. You want to make sure that they do have, this is not the Boston Globe, by the way. I know the logo's there, it's not the Boston Globe. This was used for a recent case study video, so I have it here. But you have these custom timeframes, so you want to make sure they have access to that. If you look at, and if you're doing something that big, let me show you. You'd want to probably separate your teams out. So if you're doing the NFL network, it would be really cool to have all of the teams like across some sort of filtering system where you could go through them. I would probably keep the same sort of dashboard format for them because you're essentially reporting on the same metrics, I imagine. So you could create a master dashboard and then just filter through.
Great.
Any other questions? Yes?
Randy, are you putting up the slides?
Sorry?
Randy,
Are you
putting up the
posting the
slides
slides?
also?
Yes, he'll have the slides.
Yeah.
Okay.
So how do you kind of determine what's too much information?
Okay.
I mean, you see a lot of dashboards nowadays where they have a number of tabs across.
Yeah, it's really kind of, I guess, the end users say, but the way we do it is we always tell them to limit it to 5 at the most, 5 KPIs. They can add additional, like they should add a few charts after that, but much more than 5, and you're just gonna keep them scrolling, and you might like lose attention at some point. So try to break them up into the smallest contextual sizes possible. We used to put a limit on our dashboards. I'm not sure if it's still in place or not, but we used to put a limit of 80 elements max for one dashboard this size. But at the same time, yeah, 80, but like for a big dashboard. But I think that no one comes close to reaching it. Like that was more of a development standpoint, no more than 80. But yeah, I would say like limit it quite a bit. Let's see, if you see this one, we have 3 KPIs across the top, and then we have some micro KPIs, but we don't go any further. So, any other questions?
Do you see any benefit of having a chatbot involved on the dashboard to be able to
Yeah,
answer questions?
yes, I do. So I'm kind of glad it's not here, but we do have an Alexa. You can talk to these dashboards. The reason I'm glad it's not here is because we took it to the Adobe Summit a few years ago, and it's really loud in a conference. So we were like, Alexa, what's happening on my Sweetspot dashboard? And it was like, I can't hear you. I can't understand. And it kept going for like 10 minutes. We were like, quiet, like just pull the plug. But if you're in a quiet place, yeah, you can talk to these dashboards. One thing that we're working on right now is automated insights. And so that Alexa does that. We don't have a chatbot yet, but that's something that's actually in the roadmap where it's going to be coming out on the dashboard screens. But that's the thing is that we're working as hard as we can is just to make these as actionable as possible, as easy to understand as possible. So if that means that an analyst may not, or they may not even have an analyst, some people that use these products to really write out what's going on, then it's good that Sweetspot can sit there and understand it and use machine learning to understand it itself. So that is something you'll see in the future. And if you have it in another product, I think it's great. So.
How much do you have in the way of bringing data together? I'm not talking about data delivery, as you mentioned earlier, but how do you connect to different sources?
Yeah, it's a good question. So that happens on the admin side of Sweetspot, and what you do is you have there's two different ways to do it. You have an API way, so we connect to any data sources that have a REST API, or we have an ETL, so they'll pull from data warehouses. So there's one product called Sweetspot Intelligence, which is the ETL, and one product called Sweetspot Reports. So in Sweetspot Reports, it's because it's API based, you can build everything within the Sweetspot platform. If it's Sweetspot Intelligence, then we'll build it in the back end ourselves. But we'll pull from the ETL. So. Yes?
So is it, can you do near real time?
We do at most daily. So, and we do that because a lot of people that are in marketing, they're not going to need real time unless they're doing very specific campaign work. So it just depends on, we'll say like we do strategic timing. I say a lot of people, you can either do this where you have the custom time frame, which is a really great option. And otherwise, if someone wants a static view, they can choose between daily, weekly, monthly, or quarterly. So.
So your customers tending to use this natively, or do they embed it with a size like this, a nice
Oh, no, they use it natively, I'd say. Yeah. Any other questions?
So Holly, what do you think, and I'll open this to anybody, and when you're working with dashboards, there is a school of thought that says you shouldn't have to scroll in a dashboard.
Yeah, in the Red Book of Dashboard Design, there's a chapter called Make Scrolling Your Enemy.
Okay.
So, we agree. Definitely agree.
I mean, some of the thought is that if you have to scroll, that's where you should create another tab. Like you want to move to a completely different set of data or something like that.
So, we can almost fit, but yeah. Yeah, I think it should be as limited as possible.
Say that again?
Is that related to design elegance or the human possibility that you might miss it if you don't scroll?
Yeah, no, it's a psychology thing that if it's not on the first screen, it's not as important.
Yeah.
Right, so if I have to scroll, I may or may not get to it, that maybe that's just supporting information, you know, that kind of thing.
So being above the fold.
Yeah, exactly, it's the above the fold kind of idea.
You ever read Stephen Few, he describes psychology of it pretty well.
So is the representation on a mobile device the same, or?
Basically, like if you want to play around with the dashboard, like I can grab my phone. But yeah, if you download the app, you can play with that one. There's no registration, so you can just get in and it'll say sports fans try it free. But it's basically the same representation. You'll just have to see panels one by one. And that's what I say, like choose how people want to access their dashboard. So is it on a mobile device? Do they want data? Do they want notifications coming to their phone as well? Like I will say I did get a notification from my dashboard once on a weekend, and I was like, oh man. So choose like how you want to be receiving that information and make sure it's coming to you at the most opportune times as well. So you can access on a mobile device or a web app. A lot of people though, we have the Boston Globe, what they do is they have dashboards for, I think it's 220 clients. We do that with the Boston Globe automotive section. And so they're sending it out to different dealerships. And so they only send PDFs to those dealerships. They don't give them access to the web app. And it really is just because those dealerships, they see it once and they get their PDF. They're not actively going in, whereas other clients are going to be using this daily. So it just depends.
Is there a trial option for it that you can try out?
A trial option? No, as I said, like there is a trial option. I guess after a demo, there is a trial option. But if you just want to try it out, like just to play with it, then check it out on your phone. We do have a demo account that I can give access to anybody if they just want to. If you want to come up and give me your emails later, I can give you access to this demo account. But yeah. So the only problem is that when you have a demo account, you don't see the admin side. So if you wanted to go in there and play with like bringing data in, that's one thing we don't do with the demo. So that's more of a trial. But, yeah. Any other questions? Anybody watching the World Cup?
We are.
You are? Okay.
We have the FIFA World Cup as a exclusive, so it's on all the time.
Oh, good, good. Very good. Yeah. If you download the app, you guys can check out the very last tab of the Sweetspot app. Says just for fun, and you will see my cat in there. Her name is Messy. So yeah. But anyway, any other questions on dashboards or making them actionable? Is anybody doing reporting currently? Yeah. And what type of users are you making your reports for? Stakeholders. Okay, wonderful. Very good. All right. I think that wraps it up for me.
Can you show the environment? Like, what does it look like in the environment to design?
Oh, okay. Like, how do we move it around?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, sure. So we move around in this business power user interface. Make sure it works. Everything's pretty simple. It's all drag and drop. So you click on your, and this is where, so say this is a KPI panel, anything you don't want to see in the panel, like if your client doesn't have goals, for example, you can take them away. And then from there, we just scroll down. Any of this, we'll click here, and you can choose if you want to make it bigger or smaller. You can also limit the number of columns you might want to display, and then just move them around. So.
How many different user types do you have?
User types. So let me count in my head. We have the admin users. These are the people that are able to go into the admin area. That's where you're connecting the data and you're making these graphs. Then you have the reporting users. They're able to take any graphs that have been created, and they can go into this user and move them around, create additional dashboards, distribute them. And then you have reporting only, and those are going to be pretty much read-only users where they have access to the dashboard. They can write comments, but they're not actually creating dashboards or creating the dashboard elements themselves. For agencies, we have agency managers who will be able to create dashboards for their specific clients. And yeah.
Do you license it off the admin reporting users?
I think for the most part, every single account will have 2 admin users, and reporting's unlimited. So usually we don't go by user number. But yeah.
As far as emails that alerts or emails that send out, that makes it's 24 hours.
So we allow people to have to choose what they want. So in my dashboard, I told you I got a notification on the weekend. I turned my mobile notifications off. I only get email notifications, but you can choose that. And then you'll also be able to choose, do you want it coming up in the screen here? Do you want it sent as an email, sent on a regular basis? But it's going to be sent as soon as the dashboard updates. So in the moment something happens, then you'll be notified. So we don't really have a time frame that I could go off of, but it's kind of an interesting idea coming from the marketing perspective, because I know for marketing emails, we don't send them on certain days or certain hours. So it might be an interesting conversation to have with the development team. But.
So you do not have any internal built-in data access, masking or filtering of data based on the user level?
Oh yeah, definitely. So Sweetspot data governance is one of the main things that you're built on. So what you can do is by chart level, as well as by dashboard level, you're choosing who can see what.
Within the same report?
Within the same report. So you really can decide, I guess, for security reasons, for distribution reasons, for relevance reasons, you can decide how you want to distribute those.
And is that based on like role, or is it more based on user ID?
It's usually roles, so you can create groupings as well. So say, for example, I have the marketing team, but I have the email team, I have the content team. I can go into my Sweetspot admin and create the groups, each of those, as well as like, I guess it really depends on the team itself, what they want to do. But certain teams may have upwards of 200 dashboards, and you only want someone to see a partial view of one dashboard. So we don't want to overload them, and that's why we do that. But, okay.
What clouds is it available?
What clouds?
Yeah.
No, sure.
Amazon, Google.
Oh, Amazon.
Any others?
I believe it's just Amazon, but I would have to double check. I'm on the marketing side. That's a tricky one. Any other questions?
Okay, good.
Good. If you guys are in Amsterdam, let us know.
So thanks for coming out. We'll wrap it up. Please feel free to grab any more food. There's more food across the hall. Make sure you join the group so you can see our upcoming events as I post them. And we'll post some of those links in the comments for the meetup for this event. So if you want to see the slides and the other stuff, we'll post links to those in the comments. And if you're part of the group and if you're registered, you'll get a notice that there's a new comment out there. All right.
Thank you
very much.